have matching bead bags.
Oh. I lost my bead bag at Temple, so I
Spiritual
got to
brother and sister. Do you also have Murdunga counter beads? I love them.
I don't have counter beads on my actual one.
She's famous.
I just go off memory.
That's impressive.
Bro, I don't remember.
I have
I lost them once, like when we were on a trip, like when we went to India for like a month, and so then I didn't have it. I couldn't get one either because like we didn't go to any temples, like there was nothing there. So I just had to memorize it, and then I guess got used to it.
Wow.
I would.
And then
I remember it was like 4.
yeah, that's kind of I do 2 by 2, so like I have to memorize 8 numbers.
I couldn't.
It's like the only numbers
Sorry,
I had the
too
whole
much
day.
for me to remember.
Yeah. I get lost halfway around.
This one has a 64.
Let me read back at home.
It's
Is it 64? No, like.
It's clay, bro.
So you can do the
Yeah.
60 and then do 1.
You know, it's been pretty good. Yeah, it's been with a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, I have that too.
I don't know if you saw, but like,
I thought they- I
that
thought they-
capital
first
Kirtan
one, I
for
thought they were
Murdunga.
like 20
Yeah, already. They put, yeah, it's day one, and there's like a hole in Murdunga. Yeah. Wait, why is there a hole?
Kirtan, you watched the
She
PSL?
won't hit it too hard.
You watched the PSL? Not the WPL?
I was watching
Like,
the
Murdunga's so hard.
India Australia yesterday night.
Oh, me too. We're doing great.
So far.
289 for 3.
You also have some Kirtan Paluri? Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please take your instrument back.
She also just cute.
She just led one. It was
Yeah, it's
beautiful.
like 15 minutes.
It was great.
Me?
As a principal, I don't watch anything Pakistani.
I was like, Kirtan?
Favoritism.
No Pakistani restaurants. No. I mean, there are probably no vegetarian Pakistani restaurants.
That's true. You like get like
That
a
one
potato.
vegan spot that has no customers. What is vegan? What is Pakistani food?
Vegan means egg is okay.
No.
Pakistani is kind of North Indian.
Oh really?
Wow.
They do like paneer and stuff too?
Yeah, but like most of it's meat.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
everything's like the
They
meat.
do I they do a lot of kebab and stuff like that.
Yeah, they do that too. And a
You
lot of
are
stuff
wrong
goes in
there,
there.
I just don't think they put the stuff in
Yeah. Somebody who can do it. It's a shame. I haven't learned. I still have time. I haven't touched it.
Wonderful to hear. Very difficult to follow. We're just singing, then we just sit here and keep listening very nicely. But like almost impossible
I
to
messed
follow.
up in the middle that I went to another tune I know and I was like, oh shit. Even I
I'm
can't
like,
follow
okay,
this
where is
right
this going? What do I do
now. I can't even hear
now?
myself.
It was good though.
I struggled.
Overall, it was good.
It was amazing. It was amazing. It was a challenge. It was a challenge.
Challenges are good.
Yeah, they are.
Yes.
Never a bad thing.
Can I get like warm or hot water? Do you have like
Yes.
a kettle?
Alright. Have warm water ready.
Well, just to rehash. Last time, I didn't get your name, sorry.
Karanveer.
Karnveer. I'm Kartik.
I'm
And,
Brenda.
Brenda.
Brenda. I'm
Hi all, this is Karanveer,
Yeah.
his good friend, ex-colleague.
Oh, nice, okay.
Very cool.
Alright.
Is that enough, Jen?
Yeah, that's fine.
Everybody,
Thank
please
you.
introduce yourselves. Thank you. Chelsea just introduced herself. This is
Your
Chelsea.
turn.
Oh, I'm Genevieve. Genevieve.
Genevieve. Okay. I'm Karanveer.
Nice to meet you. I'm Kush. I'm Balaram.
I'm Nithya.
Ready with the beat.
Yeah.
I'm Shreya.
That's true.
Alright.
Hello,
gonna
my
set up.
name is.
I wish I had Hare Krishna as an ex-colleague.
For some reason
It's
it's...
never been one of my situations.
You can zoom in and out.
Either.
Yes. We have,
No,
we have gathered here today
Oh, sorry.
to watch the
That is
cricket.
one gold helmet.
Gold is the new black.
Yeah, when are we gonna get to see you play? When's your next,
When we,
I have a match on April 1st.
Ooh!
he's gonna have a wife to support him too. We'll be there to watch her supporting you.
Yeah.
Is she into cricket?
Keep going to Willow.
Let's see.
That's a good question, Balaram. Is she into cricket?
That's the real question.
Not at all.
But now that her hubby is, she's gonna be.
She's gonna have to learn about it all.
She's like all 7 hours.
No, everyone in India knows about cricket. Like the basic rules, this, that, everything.
There's a wicket, there's a bat,
But-
and you bowl.
No shit.
Hey, I didn't
Hey,
know that.
you're in front of the Lord. You're in front of the Lord, Balaram. Watch your mouth.
Yeah, you're being recorded. Watched by thousands of people.
It's okay, he's holding this guy just rock crash.
It's just from Gage.
Five people are watching.
Oh shit.
Whoa.
All my
That's it,
family.
Balaram.
All your family.
They're learning a lot about your friends.
Alright.
Yeah, is it just Ron Gage watching? Hi, Ron Gage. Where
I
is he?
haven't posted in the group yet.
Why doesn't he come
I
around
called
anymore?
him on work morning.
Yeah.
Kartik, you had another like Acharya down below. Who was that?
Haida Thakur.
He's coming eventually.
He's not
Very
Acharya.
ambiguous.
I'm sure you know.
Interesting. He's
Already.
like Post India.
This
His
sugar
birthday
stay
celebration.
upright.
His birthday celebration's just
Are they?
postponed.
Yeah, just lean it against
Mm.
the arms maybe.
Oh,
Like this.
Just
Yeah, that'd be nice.
yeah. Just had to plug that in there for the recording. So.
Birthdays are fun in Krishna Kanchi.
Birthdays are really fun. Oh gosh.
Whose birthday is it?
I can't tell you which. He'll hear it. Oh no. Maybe.
Shriram, I didn't have a chance to put those pictures on.
That's okay. It's not very vital to the message.
Alright. Alright. Thank you everyone for coming and joining us for another late morning program. Calling it the Bhakti Sangha. We'll see if the name sticks.
There's already a Bhakti Sangha group.
Really, it is?
Yeah.
Where?
Amarendra speaks on it a lot.
Oh, that's Bhakti Sangha?
Bhakti Sangha Japa group.
Well, if anybody has a name, So you know in South Africa we have Krishna Balaram.
Bhakti Huddle.
Bhakti Sangha Flower Children.
The Bhakti Sangha Flower.
Flower Children.
But like there's a group called the Krishna Balaram group.
The Haribolos.
And so as a group they get together. It's kind of like how
Hari Tacos.
the Hari Bolos.
With the LK.
So yeah, if anybody has a name that they would like for our group to go by, please present it. Nothing complicated, nothing more, nothing like 3 names.
We'll put it on a vote next time.
Rasa Rajacharya, something, Krishna Balaram, something. No, keep it simple. But sorry, 1 sec. I am putting a timer on. There we go.
Padma Sangha?
There
you go.
All right. So we, as some of you may have seen in our message, last time we began with part 1 of going through our sampradaya. Does everybody remember the name of the sampradaya through which we receive our knowledge? Does everyone remember it? Can we say it together? The Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. There we go. That was perfect. And so today we're going to be doing part 2. In total, there are just over 30 acharyas from Krishna all the way down to Srila Prabhupada, who is our closest acharya through whom we receive knowledge. Just to quickly summarize what we did last time, we began with Krishna. Let's see, is it gonna go? We then spoke of the 4 main sampradayas from Krishna, namely through Lord Brahma, through Sri Lakshmi Devi, through Lord Shiva, and the 4 Kumaras. We are on the far left. Our principal acharya is Madhva Acharya, which is why in our Gaudiya Sampradaya we have the name Madhva. Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Here we have some other sampradayas mentioned, and we'll keep going. We then went to Lord Brahma. Does everyone remember that? We then went to Narada Muni, to Vyasadeva, to Madhva Acharya. These are the disciples and grand disciples of Madhva Acharya. We went through them as well. Balaram very nicely highlighted the glories of Srila Madhavendra Puri and his disciple Ishwar Puri. And today we'll pick up from an incarnation of Krishna himself in the mood of Srimati Radharani in Lord Chaitanya. So Balaram, if you will lead us through that.
Sure. So as we discussed last time, Lord Chaitanya, he is our stalwart acharya. He's one of the principal acharyas of our sampradaya as well. And to start off, why he came down was essentially to propagate the holy name and to propagate Krishna consciousness. And at the time he came down, that wasn't a big deal to everyone. And that's why Advaita Acharya, who was before on this list, or sorry, I think he's next on the list.
Advaita Acharya?
Advaita Acharya?
He's in line.
He's with Ishwar Puri, so the previous line. So Advaita Acharya, he was one of the only devotees, not only, but he was one of the leading devotees at his time. And he saw the whole world struggling, and he was like, only Krishna can save everyone. So he prayed very intensely to Lord Krishna for him to come down and appear and basically make everyone a devotee. And so with his intense praying on the bank of the Ganges, the shalagram and the offer tulsi to the shalagram, he would scream and call out to Krishna, please come down. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he already had laid the foundation for coming. He laid the foundation for coming by sending Madhavendra Puri first. And he's the one who's the guru of Advaita Acharya as well. Or I guess that was a debatable one, I'm not sure. But in that way, he laid the foundation basically in the sense Advaita Acharya was already there. Nityananda Prabhu had already appeared. Madhavendra Puri was there, Ishwar Puri was there, all these devotees had just appeared. And it was just we were just waiting for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come himself and to fully just take everything on and take the full initiative and really bring out the Sankirtan movement. And that's what he did. So he came down in his early childhood days. He was not even a devotee. He was in his own kind of vibe. He did his own thing. And he was a great Sanskrit scholar. He defeated the best pundits of the world. And that time Navadvip, where he was from, the 9 islands, that was the center of all education. That was the pinnacle. It's I guess what we call Boston now or something like that. where it's like everything is just there. All the smart people are in one place.
Boston?
MIT,
Where did that come from?
I know I was about to say that's like a controversial thing
Boston?
to say today.
There's two good schools there.
Okay, sorry.
The smart minds are there.
He's wishing he was there instead of here, you see. That's why.
No, I'm good. So then, like, that was like the center of all education, and he was in that place, and he was the main person there, and everyone respected. He was Nimai Pandit. That was his name, and everyone, like the devotees would pass by him and be like, "Oh, I wish only if he was a devotee. He'd be so good as a devotee." Like you see some people in the world, and you're like, "I really wish he was a devotee because he'd be so good. He's kind of inclined, he knows everything, but he's just not there." So it was kind of like that with him, and also at that same time, his brother was actually a disciple of Advaita Acharya, or rather, he went to Advaita Acharya's house a lot, and he would learn from him. And he'd learn about Krishna consciousness, and then one day his parents came to him and were like, "You know what, we're gonna get you a wife." And he's like, "No, I don't want that, I'm leaving home." And he left. And then his parents got really scared in that moment. They're like, "Oh no, our second child better not become a devotee because he's gonna leave us." And but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after his dad passed away, he went to Gaya, which is where you offer you offer your respect, you do the rituals for the ancestors, like your relatives that have passed. And he went there and he did those ceremonies for his dad, and there he also met Ishvara Puri. And he was very inspired by Ishvara Puri. He took initiation from him. And Ishvara Puri, he gave him only one mantra, and that was the Maha Mantra. And as we discussed last time, he took that Maha Mantra and he was just going crazy. He's just like, "What is this? What is this magic you've given me? I can't even like think properly." Like he comes back, he's a professor because he's Nimai Pandit. He comes back to school. He's like saying Krishna only. He's not like his students are like, "What are you saying? I don't know what you're saying anymore," because he's just saying Krishna, and he's just like, and he's explaining everything in terms of Krishna, and like there's a full like a change that everyone is seeing. Like, everyone can see Nimai Pandit is different now. Something's off, or something's different. And then he went back to Gaya, and he went back to Ishvara Puri. And he's like, "What did you give me?" And Ishvara Puri explains, "This is the Maha Mantra. This is everything." And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after that period, he started associating with Advaita Acharya. He started associating with Srivas Pandit, who was one of the Panchatattvas, and they started holding Sankirtan at his home all night long. So they all like did their own daily duties, whatever they had to do, and then in the night they came together in a small room at Srivas Anvan in his house, and they would just chant the whole night long. And that's where it started. That's what Vaisheshwar he calls the home base. That Shivashangan is home base for the whole Sankirtan movement. And from there and then there's more to his story of how he took it forward. He became a sannyasi after that. And the main reason for that was because in that time in India, people really respected sannyasis. So it was like, in order to preach at a larger scale, in order for people to like respect you when you like go out and preach, let's say in a different state or a different city, it's good that you're a sannyasi because then they recognize, oh, he's here, he's dedicated his whole life to Krishna, he's dedicated his whole life to like understanding this knowledge and giving this knowledge to other people, so I'm going to respect him. So that's what he did, and he took sannyas and he moved to Jagannath Puri, and there he continued the Sankirtan movement. He traveled all around South India, and he spread the holy name everywhere, and mainly to like in terms of the Guru Parampara, what he did is he initiated a lot of disciples, and particularly the six Goswamis, which Karthik will go into next. And these disciples have taken the parampara forward. So after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left, who's going to take it forward? It just can't stop happening. The whole reason for him to come is to establish it for a long time. And so his disciples, they started writing lots of books, which are really important to us right now. Because of the books they wrote, we have like the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam. We have the text. The text was there by Vasudeva, but the purports. What's the meaning of these books? That was written by different Goswamis and their grand disciples and so on in the parampara. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he really laid the foundation for the Sankirtan movement, which is a different kind of area, I guess you can think of our sampradaya, where it kind of transitioned from more of like a regular kind of sampradaya as others to something that's like something completely different. And as we discussed last time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came down to give Krishna Bhakti, which is love for Krishna, which was never given before. The first time that we even had a glimpse of Krishna Bhakti was when Krishna came down himself, and we saw the devotees of like the residents of Vraja, how they interacted with Krishna. Like his mom loved him like a mom, not as God. His friends loved him like a friend. Like the gopis loved him as a lover. and so on, and these different relationships that are very sweet, and that they go beyond like what was seen before. Like none of this existed before. And so after Krishna came down, like there was that glimpse of Krishna Bhakti, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came down to spread that to everyone. It's not just in the residents of Raja, anyone can do it. And the way you do that is by chanting the holy name. And that's the whole point of the Chaitanya Charitamrita too. It just goes into the full biography of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but it's also a study of his life and his teachings. And like the main thing you can always take out of it is that by chanting the holy name, all success will happen. Like you will attain Krishna Bhakti by chanting the holy name. And there's a whole process for that, which is explained by Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami in their books to basically make that process easier for us. Because otherwise, like it's like chanting the holy name, but how do you like get good at it? Because and then that's what they teach is like you can read books, you associate with devotees, and so on. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like you can't even say how instrumental. He's the only reason we're here. But yeah, that's how he's connected to the Guru Parampara. Karthik, you want to say more?
Yeah, I think it's important for us to remember that this is Krishna himself. He comes in the mood of his devotee, but he is not different from Krishna. He's actually both Krishna and Radharani. Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Recently we just celebrated Gaur Purnima, as everyone knows. And until this point in the parampara, even though there's a line that can be traced, it was not very strong. You could count on one, maybe two hands the amount of temples, but in those temples there were small groups of people who would really seriously practice Krishna consciousness, even at a basic level, even if they were just chanting or something. But Lord Chaitanya, he brought this outward expanding movement to everybody. And it's Krishna himself, what mercy. And we're very lucky within this golden age. It says that within 1,000 years of Lord Chaitanya's appearance, we're like in the 537th year since, am I right? 37? I think
Something.
this year was 537 or 38? That since Lord Chaitanya appeared. And they say within that 1,000 years is a golden period for Krishna consciousness. And for us to be alive within this time, it's just once that 1,000 years ends, it's like, it's downhill from there. It's like you won't see as many temples, as much Kirtan, and it'll become smaller again all the time until the Yuga ends. But we're very lucky to be within this golden age, 1,000 years since Lord Chaitanya appeared. And what's different is just like the Sankirtan, Kirtan is what's different, the main difference. Chanting on your beads is what's there, but Lord Chaitanya would go out in the streets. He would have these kirtans the whole night in the home of, Srivas, and everybody would come together. Nobody was shunned away. Everyone was welcomed, and everyone was encouraged to take it very seriously. So, it may be difficult for some to understand, given how recent Lord Chaitanya appeared. Like, it's like, most of them, Lord Chaitanya only 500 years ago. If I was lucky enough, I would have been born at the same time. But I think it's important for us to remember his position and remember that he's not anybody but he's Krishna himself, and to take his instruction very seriously. There's so many books, and we'll move on to the next part, which is on the six Goswamis. Next up in the parampara, the direct disciples of Lord Chaitanya, the six Goswamis. Directly from Lord Chaitanya, if you're going in lineage, in the same line you have Rupa, Sanatana, and Saurabh Damodar. So Rupa Goswami appeared in 1489. He was the younger brother of Sanatana Goswami, who in our lineage of parampara, we hold him on the same level. Sanatana was the older brother, Rupa Goswami was the younger brother. But we say Rupa Goswami is the principal Goswami because of his deep understanding of the intimate pastimes of Radha Krishna, which nobody else was able to comprehend or really communicate in an effective way. In his childhood, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they were very intelligent boys, being able to speak multiple languages, Sanskrit, Bengali, even Persian languages. They knew it perfectly. They were also schooled within the school of Bhakti Yoga from a very young age. So they were already very intelligent. During this time, the Mughal Empire was coming to India, they were taking over. And in the area of West Bengal where they were born, Nawab Hussain Shah was in charge. And because he had heard of how saintly his two brothers were, he forced them into being governors in his court. They had to take Muslim names and they had no choice. He threatened their families, threatened them. They had no choice and they took the service. They did so under duress, but that just shows how amazing they were. It was very rare to see that. But the Shah knew that with such amazing people in the community, if they were left free, he would never be able to keep control over everybody. And although they had all this prestige, although they had all this exposure, they never forgot about Krishna, who they learnt about from a very young age. Even before meeting Lord Chaitanya, Rupa Goswami wrote several books on the Vedic philosophy. In 1514, Rupa and Sanatan met Lord Chaitanya for the first time, and they were initiated by him. They left their government services, and there's very nice stories, we can go into that another day, of how Lord Chaitanya, in a very creative way, got them out of that situation with the Shah. There's some very nice pastimes, lots of going back and forth. But finally, Lord Chaitanya, and along with his other followers, got Rupa and Sanatan out from that and took them with them and gave them the instruction to spread the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Specifically, Lord Chaitanya ordered Rupa Goswami and the other Goswamis to go to Vrindavan with a fourfold mission: to uncover the holy sites of Lord Krishna's pastimes, to install the deities of the Lord and arrange for their worship, to write books on Krishna consciousness, and to teach the rules of devotional life. It should just be general spiritual teachings. And so they set off. They left Lord Chaitanya. After some time, Lord Chaitanya disappeared, but their service carried on. They went to Vrindavan, and in many ways they tried as best they could to uncover these places slowly but surely. They would spend almost 20 hours a day as mendicants. They never ate much. They would eat just enough to sustain the body. They wouldn't sleep much. In the times that they wouldn't be searching for these places or trying to write or trying to teach people, they would be chanting their rounds. And some said they would chant for 22 hours a day, and then they would worship for 1 hour and sleep for 1 hour, and then wake up and start all over. Quite mind-boggling if you think about it. So a lot of time went by, and there was not much success in their efforts to follow Lord Chaitanya's instruction. And so one day at the Yamuna, Rupa Goswami was sitting and he was crying. He was so upset he didn't know what to do. All of a sudden, a village boy, a Brijbasi boy, appeared. Later on, we figure out that this is Krishna who appeared to Rupa Goswami and asked him, "Why are you so upset?" Rupa Goswami, he explained, this is the instruction from my Guru, Lord Chaitanya, and I have not been able to do anything. There's no success to it at all. So the Brijbasi boy, who's Krishna, tells him, come, I'll show you this hill. There's a cow that always goes to a certain spot on this hill. And this mother cow lets all of its milk out on the specific spot. There's something special over there. So come with me. So Rupa Goswami is like, what's going on? I'm so confused. So he follows this Brijbasi boy, and as they get to the spot, the boy disappears. He later realized that this was Krishna who came to guide him. And so the boy said, no, there's a deity of Krishna in the hole. And so he tried excavating but couldn't find anything, and waited till the next day for the cow to come back and to let its milk onto the spot again. When he dug again, then he found the form of Radha Govinda. And has everyone seen a picture of Radha Govinda? I'll bring up a picture later on. But Radha Govinda, one of the main deities that were installed in Vrindavan. Here is this perfect form of Radha and Krishna, just here in this spot. So immediately they were excavated, and a huge temple, amazing temple was built. At the time, it was said that this temple was the most magnificent place of worship in the world. With the help of the king of Rajasthan himself, they built this. So later on, Aurangzeb, the Mughal king, came to Vrindavan and attacked and destroyed half the temple. And so till this day, Radha Govinda, and I think it was Radha Gopinath, and I think Radha Mohan as well, right? They were taken away to Jaipur, in Rajasthan, and you can still go there today. Has anyone been to Jaipur? Have you guys been? You been to Jaipur? Have you been to see Radha Govinda? No. It's really special. So have you been? Yeah, you've been. Mangal Arati there, 10,000 people minimum. There's no space. And these deities are small, they're not huge, but it's really special, such a special feeling. These deities still bring the whole world to them. And so it said these deities are special because their mercy is that they take anyone and give them the desire to grow their love for Krishna. That's the mercy of Radha Govinda specifically. So Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, they contributed to the Krishna consciousness in such a strong way by spreading the knowledge, by establishing these deities. We can go to Vrindavan and go on Parikram, and you'll always say, Rupa Goswami found this place. And it's because of him we know this is there. We don't have a place of pilgrimage without him. All these places were lost. Specifically, in their writings, there's some very important scriptures that they wrote. The Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, the Hamsadutta, Padyabali, Siddhanta Ratna. All these different books, very important scriptures for us to have. Beyond Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, these scriptures go into the very important details of how we should be practicing Krishna consciousness on a day-to-day level. Both Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami are revealed to be actually gopis within the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. That's their true identity. And so it said, when Krishna appears, all of his associates appear within a certain time range. And so Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari, and if I'm not mistaken, Sanatana Goswami is. I have it written here. I'm sorry. Labanga Manjari. That's Sanatana Goswami. And so, specifically, Rupa Goswami, what makes him special, so special and beyond everyone, is, as I mentioned before, his ability to understand the intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna. That love and intimate pastimes between Radha and Krishna is not for the faint-hearted. It can be very easily mistaken for what we would perceive as normal love between a lover. But Rupa Goswami, he is able to understand it and is able to explain it in a way for us to be able to understand and not cause offense and think and compare it to what we would see as something normal in our day-to-day lives. So Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, very important figures in our parampara. And the samadhi of Rupa Goswami is actually in the Radha Damodar temple. And those deities were actually carved by Rupa Goswami. And Radha Damodar temple is very important. It is the temple in Vrindavan where Prabhupada stayed for quite a while before he came to the US. And he began his transcription and translation of the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam there. And so he would Prabhupada would often say, Rupa Goswami is still there. And he took shelter of Srila Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami, those deities were carved by him. He had a dream that Krishna is saying, you need to carve these deities. These deities need to appear in Vrindavan. And so he said, I don't know how to carve them. And Krishna said, just take the stone and start and they'll appear. And they did. And so till this day, Radha Damodar is still there. So yeah, that's Rupa and Sanatana. And next up, Balaram, I think we're doing Jiva Goswami.
Sure.
Yeah. I think Raghunath
You want
Das.
to talk about
Raghunath Das first, yes. So Raghunath Das was another Goswami of the 6 Goswamis. And he was actually the first Goswami to meet Lord Chaitanya. And he came from a very, very wealthy family. In that time, they were one of the most wealthiest families in India and in the area. And from a young age, he was instructed by a great devotee by the name of Balaramacharya, and he was introduced to Haridas Thakur, who we have right there. And through the association of Haridas Thakur and Balaramacharya, Raghunath Das already became very serious in his Krishna consciousness. Later on, through the association of Haridas Thakur, he was taken to meet Lord Chaitanya. And on meeting Lord Chaitanya, he was completely taken away. Without a doubt, within a split second, he knew that this is Krishna himself. Completely took shelter of him. And Lord Chaitanya sent him back home. Now, this is a son of a rich man. Everyone knows who he is. Lord Chaitanya, after giving him instruction, teaching him the philosophy, initiating him, told him, right, now you go home. Don't become too excited. Don't go too extreme. Stay calm. Keep it within your heart. Because you're going to try to share it with all of your relatives, but they will never understand because they don't have the heart or the mind to. So Raghunath Das, he goes back home, and even though he was married to an extremely beautiful woman, had everything, riches, he could do whatever he wanted to do in life. But his longing for Krishna and his true devotion in his heart was something he could not get beyond. And so, after some time being married to this beautiful woman, having all the riches, he left it all and moved into the side house in his home, with nothing in the room, and he would just stay there and had worship, chant all day long. And his family became very worried about him, and they feared that he would leave home. Around the same time, he met Lord Nityananda, and the pastime of Panihati happened, which is a very pertinent, very important one for us here. Does everyone know the pastime of Panihati? No? Okay. So, Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya, they were magnanimous personalities. They were followed around by many followers. Their disciples, many people who simply wanted to be around them because of how great they were. Lord Nityananda meeting Raghunath Das in a joking-filled manner told him, oh, you're the son of a rich man. Why, you should feed you have the ability to feed all my followers. So you should do this. Because Raghunath Das, seeing Lord Nityananda, he was afraid. And so he hid, I think it was a hint from Lord Nityananda at first, right?
Yeah, he offered a bid. He came and Nityananda Prabhu was gathered, and he was like far away. He's like, no, I don't deserve to go there. I'm just gonna offer obeisances from really far out. And then Nityananda was telling him, he was like, hey, you thief, come here. and then go on.
Yeah, so Raghunath Das, he has this track record. He's just so humble. In his mind, he's like, I am not worthy to even go near the Lord. Even though he spent a lot of time with Lord Chaitanya, he never went close or asked or like approached him for anything. He would go once or twice in like his whole life, even though they were right there. While others were far away, would like kill to anybody to be with Lord Chaitanya 24/7. But Raghunath Das was so humble. But anyway, as he mentioned, Lord Nityananda said, "You thief, come here," and in a joking manner said, "You know, you're a thief, so but you're the son of such a rich man. So, as punishment, you should feed all of my followers." And so that's how we have the chip rice, the Chita Dahi festival. He was the one who put, I think it was chip rice and yogurt together, right? Yeah. Chip rice and yogurt, and he fed everyone. And there was hundreds and thousands of people.
There were people eating on the Ganges inside the water because there was no space on the ground. They were like standing and eating.
So that's the Pani Haji festival. And Raghunath Das is the Goswami behind that pastime. After some time, Lord Chaitanya instructed Raghunath Das to join Rupa and Sanatan and Jiva Goswami in Vrindavan. And Rupa and Sanatan instruct, even though he himself would also spend 22 hours a day chanting, sleep for 1 hour, and then the other hour was just spent going about the worship of his deities. They instructed him to cut down his chanting and spend 2 hours only talking about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. And so they would all sit for those 2 hours in this hearing every single day. So Raghunath Das is also a very important Goswami. And now we hear from Balaram about Jiva Goswami, who is the nephew of Rupa and Sanatan. And so we keep them on the same level because they were both around at the same time and were considered joint acharyas after Rupa and Sanatan. Even though they were alive around the same time, after Rupa and Sanatan Goswami passed away, Raghunath Das and Jiva Goswami were the next in line.
Right. Jiva Goswami, his father was Anupam, and Anupam was the brother of Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami. But he passed away earlier. But Jiva Goswami, so basically he was taken under the care of Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami, and that's how he learned about everything. And what Jiva Goswami is really known for is his what's the word? Scholastics? Scholarship, sure. But basically he was a great scholar. He wrote so many books, they could probably fill this room. And like up here, like he wrote probably like 300 books, something like that. Something really, really high. And like Radhika Raman Prabhu, maybe like Prabhu's godbrother, like he did his PhD on just like one of them. And it wasn't even full. Like it just, that's how crazy Jiva Goswami is. He wrote so many books, and the reason like he really like set the gold standard for the Krishna conscious movement in terms of writing, because after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, a lot of the issues with the so-called Brahmanas during that time were like, oh well, you're just making up your own stuff here. Like where is your book? We have the Vedas, we have this, we have that, we have all these commentaries and whatever not. So these Goswamis really like took that forward, and they like established a lot of their own writing as well. And Jiva Goswami especially, like he was such a Sanskrit scholar that he wrote his own grammar book. He wrote his own book on Sanskrit, teaching people how to learn Sanskrit, but in a Krishna conscious way. Whereas like other books, like they'd have examples like cat and dog, he'd have examples like Krishna and Balaram. Like that's because it's a really nice book. And then the main book that he, like his life's work, you can call it, is the Shat Sandarbha, which is these 6 books that explain Krishna consciousness in full. And we have translations of them that are coming through. The first one is the Tattva Sandarbha. So what Prabhu has it. There we go. You might. Which one is that?
Tattva Sandarbha.
Tattva Sandarbha. There's another.
Is that in English?
Yeah, I have all 6.
You have all 6. Oh, Prabhu. So that's the 6 books.
Yeah, all these books. They're correctly.
Are they all in English?
Yeah. So these are translations of the Sandarbhas by Banaswami
Oh,
Maharaj.
the Banaswami one. Okay. And then
Nice.
Gopi Pradhan.
Prabhu is actually working. He has only the first one out.
You
Tattva
passed
Sandarbha.
away midway. That's just why.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
That's why Banaswami.
No. So these are totally different.
Oh, they're different.
So he's
okay.
working on. He was
Like
working
what the
on-
BBT is doing is they're using his notes and they're writing the books. But anyway, so there is Tattva Sandarbha, and Tattva Sandarbha is basically the epistemology of Krishna consciousness. Epistemology is a big word, but what it means is the philosophy of knowledge. Where do we get our knowledge from? And basically what he establishes in that book is that we get knowledge from Srimad Bhagavatam. And he explains why Srimad Bhagavatam is the epitome of knowledge, that has everything in it. This is the highest form of knowledge. And he spends the whole book, that's the first book, is just getting that through. And then in other books like Krishna Sandarbha, Bhakti Sandarbha, Priti Sandarbha, all these other books, they talk about different aspects of Krishna consciousness. They talk about why Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, for example. What is love for Krishna? All these different concepts. And his books are like, it's like a thesis on Krishna consciousness, and particularly the science of Krishna consciousness. So he's a stalwart in that way, where he established these books, he wrote these books, and in fact his disciples started you can call the book distribution movement, which we'll talk about next time, where they would go in their bullock carts and they'd give these books out. They go to libraries, they'd pass out these books, and they got in trouble for it too, because that time India was under Muslim rule, so they weren't allowed to do these things then. So Jiva Goswami, he something really integral to our sampradaya after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the writing of books, and we've seen that all the way through. Like for the next devotees in the sampradaya, we'll have like Bhakti Vinod Thakur, who wrote so many books of his own. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he also wrote many books. And of course, like Srila Prabhupada, he wrote so many books, because that was the medium of how we could share this knowledge to everyone. Because there's only so much you can say to someone. There's only so much you can do Kirtan, only like some 100 meter or 100 feet radius you can hear it. But then how do you spread it across the globe? And that's the writing, because the books will stay forever. Those words are always going to be there. And so these Goswamis really took that initiative, and they wrote so many different books and that we have right now that really explain all the different parts of Krishna consciousness, which would not be possible without them. We wouldn't know of these different aspects, as Karthik was saying, Harupa and Sanatan. Because of them, we're able to understand Krishna Bhakti in a way where we can digest it. Whereas the Srimad Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings are at a very advanced level. So it's very important to always appreciate these acharyas, and especially the Goswamis, for giving us what we have right now.
All the Goswamis have very deep, intimate pastimes, and it would take forever to go through them. So eventually it'd be nice to come back, circle back. I mean, like Rupa Goswami has had specific, and even Raghunath Das, instances where Radharani herself would appear in a certain way, and they wouldn't realize it. So these personalities are very much on a different level, but they've come to condense this knowledge and make it palatable. So I think it's very important.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing on top of what Balram said. So at that time, like he said, the Brahmanas, the other sampradayas were questioning the Gaudiya Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement regarding where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was deriving all this from. Right? Some of you know, most of you know, there are two schools of thought primarily, Advaita and Dvaita. So for Advaita, the primary epistemological proof is the Vedas, the four Vedas, because they are called Shruti, right? So Shruti basically means it just appeared. They are eternal and it just appeared. There's no author for the Shrutis, right? And then there's the Smritis, where the 18 Puranas, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, Srimad Bhagavatam, these all come under the category of Smritis, right? Smritis basically mean they have an author, like a human author, right? So the Shrutis always take precedence over the Smritis when it came to any kind of a spiritual or a Vedic debate, right? To prove if this philosophy is right or that philosophy is right. So it is in that milieu that Jiva Goswami wrote the Shat Sandarbhas, and the first half of the Tattva Sandarbha is about refuting Advaita as a philosophy, on why Advaita doesn't work, and he quotes a lot of Shastras, and then he proves basically through logic and reasoning that Advaita cannot work as a philosophy, and that is why Dvaita, which is what we follow kind of Dvaita, why Dvaita is more real in terms of philosophy, right? And then he, in the second part of the Tattva Sandarbha, he goes on to establish why Srimad Bhagavatam is much more important than the Vedas, even though it is considered a Purana, right? So a lot of people were not considering, because the Vedas, you can primarily interpret the Vedas as impersonal. If you study the Vedas, you will most probably come to the conclusion that God is impersonal, right? Srimad Bhagavatam tells us that God is personal. Krishna, he has name, form, qualities, pastimes, associates, and everything, right?
Or rather, for the Vedas, it's more like it doesn't tell you what you get. It's like
Yes.
it keeps it vague, so it doesn't tell you like God is personal or impersonal.
Yeah.
So it's like you can kind of choose, and which is sorry.
Yeah, you're right. So, but most people come to the conclusion that God is impersonal, or depending on the school of thought that you follow. But Srimad Bhagavatam categorically establishes that God is personal. So, in the Tattva Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami goes on to prove why, in Kali Yuga especially, the Srimad Bhagavatam is more supreme than all the Vedas and Puranas put together. So that is the importance of the Tattva Sandarbha and Jiva Goswami. And from that point on, everyone started considering this movement to be authentic. Until then, they didn't take it very seriously. They just thought this is a sentimental movement where people are just gathering around and singing and dancing, and there's no philosophy behind it. But after Jiva Goswami wrote all these books and debated so many people, they started taking the philosophy of Gaudiya Vaishnavism seriously.
Thank you. Great, Bishop. Before we move on, I was able to get a picture of Radha Govinda, who's in Jaipur. Thank you. My computer's running slow. I apologize. Okay, this one. All right, and next up, which will be our last acharya for today, since we still have a long way to go. But Krishnadas Kaviraj and Shriram is going to be covering that for us today.
Okay, so Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is a biography of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's a huge work of literature, but we don't know anything. Literally, we know very little about the personal life of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. We just know where he was born, and he himself writes in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He writes very little about himself in Chaitanya Charitamrita, except for the fact that he was born in this village, and then he had a brother, and they were devotees. Basically, his brother was a follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but didn't believe in Nityananda Prabhu for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
No idea why.
What's it again?
So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's brother was a devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but was not a devotee of Nityananda Prabhu. So for some reason, no idea why. So they had a falling out, so they fought each other. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami supported Nityananda Prabhu, and that night, so he was born in a small village in Bengal, and that night Nityananda Prabhu came in Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's dream and told him, okay, your work in Bengal is done, now you go to Vrindavan. And then he immediately left for Vrindavan, and then there is basically no history, no knowledge of what he did in Vrindavan until his last days, when he became very old. Right? We know that he's a disciple of Raghunathas Goswami, and he used to listen to Raghunathas Goswami and Swarup Damodar Das Goswami's lectures every day. But other than that, there is very little known about him personally. Before he wrote this Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's another Vaishnava Acharya, but he's not in the list, by the name of Lochan Das Thakur. So before Chaitanya Charitamrita, that was the definitive biography of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called Chaitanya Bhagavat. So that was done, and then all the devotees of Vrindavana one day came to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and said, hey, can you also write a biography of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And then Krishnadas said, no, I will not write, because there's already a very good biography written by Lochan Das Thakur, and I'm nothing in front of him, so I wouldn't even try to attempt writing a biography of Mahaprabhu, right? But the problem, I wouldn't say problem, but the Chaitanya Bhagavat lacked a lot of pastimes of Mahaprabhu, because while Lochan Das Thakur was writing Chaitanya Bhagavat, he became too ecstatic. While he was writing, he became too ecstatic reading the pastimes, and he just went into the pastimes of Mahaprabhu and Nityananda, and then he missed out so many pastimes. So he covered a lot of the early life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because that's pretty dry. And then when Mahaprabhu took sannyas, and then he started his movement, and then went to Vrindavana, Puri, and then he actually started exhibiting who he really was, Lochan Das Thakur just couldn't continue. Right? So the Chaitanya Bhagavat lacked a lot of intimate pastimes of Mahaprabhu. So all the Vrindavan devotees asked Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami to pen this biography of Mahaprabhu. They asked him this because he was a very close disciple of Raghunath Das Goswami, and he used to listen to lectures of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his pastimes from Raghunath Das Goswami every day, right? And that is the reason everyone went to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and asked him to write this Bhagavatam. Yep, come in. Hey, welcome. Yeah. So the connection is, so Raghunath Das Goswami was not, one question could arise. So a lot of people know the Adi Leela of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his birth, how he became Nimai Pandit, his marriage with his two marriages, and then how he took sannyas and everything. But Raghunath Das Goswami did not participate in the Puri or the Antya Leela, Madhya Leela and Antya Leela of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Puri, right? So how did Raghunath Das Goswami come to know about all the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Puri, which is where he spent the last 12 years of his life, where he became like crazy mad about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, right? So we saw Swarup Damodar Das Goswami, right? Swarup Damodar, oh, it's a tongue twister. Swarup Damodar Das Goswami was the personal secretary of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during his 12 years in Puri. So he spent every day with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then once Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disappeared, he came to Vrindavan, and he used to give lectures on the pastimes and leelas of Mahaprabhu in Puri, and Raghunath Das Goswami used to listen, right? And then Swarup Damodar Das Goswami dictated everything to Raghunath Das Goswami and asked him to memorize everything, all the leelas, all the pastimes, everything that needed to be recorded. So Raghunath Das Goswami memorized everything, and Raghunath Das Goswami told everything to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, all the leelas that Swarup Damodar Das Goswami told him. So and then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami said, okay, let me ask Radha Madan Mohan, which is one of the 6 temples established by the Goswamis in Vrindavan. He said, okay, let me ask Radha Madan Mohan, and if he gives me permission, then I will write. Right? At this time, he was probably like 80, 90 years old, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, and the devotees came and asked him to attempt the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Right? And then he was praying, standing under Radha Madan Mohan, and a garland fell on him. And then he took it as Radha Madan Mohan's blessing that he can attempt this. Right? So he starts writing the Chaitanya Charitamrita from memory. There are 24,000 verses in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then he writes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that I'm so old, I'm not even able to hold the pen or quill, my hands are trembling, I'm not able to see anything I'm writing, I'm not able to hear anything. He's practically blind, he's practically deaf, he's not able to write anything, and then he writes, and it is so wonderful that the writing still goes on. Right? He says, Radha Madan Mohan just tells me what to write, and then it appears on the paper. So that is what he writes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then that's how Chaitanya Charitamrita came about to be. It's a most I just learned today, TIL, that there are 27 biographies of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, including Chaitanya Bhagavat and Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then basically Chaitanya Charitamrita is taken to be the final word in terms of Mahaprabhu's biography. Last two details. So the importance of Chaitanya Charitamrita is given by Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada's guru. So one time he was telling about the importance of Chaitanya Charitamrita to his disciples, and he said, if all the books in the whole world suddenly vanish, and there are only two books, Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, that is more than enough to sustain this world. All the knowledge that is required for the world are there in these two books. But then he goes on to add, even if the Srimad Bhagavatam is destroyed, it vanishes one fine day, just the Chaitanya Charitamrita alone is enough to sustain this whole world in terms of the knowledge required for us to sustain in spirituality and in bhakti and everything. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati says, everything there is to know is there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So it is such an important scripture, and we know practically next to nothing about the author who wrote it, other than he was Raghunath Das Goswami's disciple, and he wrote the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And his samadhi is also there in the Radha Damodar temple, where Rupa Goswami's and I think a few other Goswamis samadhis are also there in the Radha Damodar temple, and that is where Prabhupada spent 6 years after his sannyas working on the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, and this is the kutir, or the house where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami wrote the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and that is his samadhi, Pushpa Samadhi in Radha Damodar temple.
Where is the kutir?
I couldn't find where the kutir is. Somewhere in Vrindavan. But I couldn't find where exactly it is. Yeah, and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is also supposed to be one of the manjaris, very intimate manjaris of Radharani. There is some confusion on the exact name of the manjari. So, yeah. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, another future acharya in this list, so nobody knows how scholarly Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was. Chaitanya Charitamrita is very simple, simple but very powerful in terms of the message. So there is a Kama Gayatri mantra in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes that this Kama Gayatri mantra is 24 syllables, right? But if you actually read it out, it has 25 syllables. So this drove Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur crazy. So he wrote like 30-40 books. He's a terrific scholar, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Most of Prabhupada's purports of the Bhagavad Gita is from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purports. But this one thing was driving him crazy, and he took a vow that I'm going to fast until death, until I figure out why Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami wrote that the Kama Gayatri has only 24 syllables, while in reality it had 25. Right? So he was fasting, and then one night Radharani came in his dream, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's dream, and told him, hey, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami knows what he's doing.
Don't ask.
It is actually 20. So he was actually looking at every grammatical treatise ever written about why it could be 24 syllables, but he couldn't find it anywhere. And then Radharani came to him in his dream and said, you go and take a look at this book, and in there you will find the answer of why it is only considered to be 24 syllables. And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur goes and finds that very obscure book, and then there is one rule in that book which says, okay, this Kama Gayatri mantra can be considered to be 24 syllables if this and this happen together. And then that is when Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur understood the real potency of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami.
One syllable.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Sriram.
So,
I think that was amazing. Before we move on to our question or like any insights, we just go through so we know where we're going next. We'll end off with Narottam Das Thakur. We won't go into his details today, but we will be singing a nice bhajan that he has written. After Narottam is Vishwanath Chakravarti, who Sriram just mentioned in the nice story. After that is Jagannath Das Babaji, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Gaur Kishore Das, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, and then Srila Prabhupada. And so, Any questions, any insights, any thoughts on what we've spoken about today? Anything that stuck out as like a point that was funny or that you'll always remember, anything like that?
Yeah, just one thing. So this lineage is not linear. So if you see clearly, you will notice that this is not linear because Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is not the initiating guru of Narottama Das Thakur.
Right.
So that's Lokanath Goswami, right? But this lineage is given so that every single one of these acharyas in the lineage, in these 32, have done something like so powerful and so great that it took the movement forward or made it so that it didn't get destroyed. So
The connection is there somehow, even if it may be.
so Narottama Das Thakur basically served Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami very nicely in Vrindavan.
Yeah. So there's always some sort of connection,
Yes.
even if they might not be disciple. I think most of the way until Krishnadas Kaviraj and Narottam, it was guru and disciple, if I'm not mistaken. I think until the 6 Goswamis.
Yeah.
It was until 6 Goswamis it was guru disciple, disciple, and then 6 Goswamis it kind of spread out.
Yes.
And it was kind of like, okay, we're gonna slug it together and keep a line. But that's what it is. Anyone else? Any?
To add to what Sriram was saying about Chaitanya Charitamrita, in fact, like the other books, like Chaitanya Bhagavad, Chaitanya Mangal, like all the other biographies, they only cover the stories. But Chaitanya Charitamrita has so much like philosophy in it. In fact, it has verses from Bhagavatam quoted in it. And so like, if you don't want to read Bhagavatam, it's too big, 18,000 verses. Just go through Chaitanya Charitamrita to find all the Sanskrit verses, and those are like, it's like the pearls of the Bhagavatam. Just like the verses that are really important. So
You can skip over on this one. You know, the Prabhupada says that you cannot skip it, Bhagavatam. Everyone skips the 10th canto. Does everyone understand why? It's because in the 10th canto is the pastimes of Krishna. So as you can see, all those books. Priyan, can you point out the 10th canto in the line?
This is the 3
That-
volumes.
Everything to the left
Finish
comes
off.
before that. All those books before those 3 that Sriram is pointing to comes before that. And so Prabhupada says you cannot skip over because you skip something, you'll miss the ability to understand what happens later on. But with Chaitanya Charitamrita, you can skip straight to it. It's fine. I think it was really important and like reading and doing the research for all the acharyas that Krishna Radharani appears to all of the acharyas in some way, in some form, at some point. Even for Prabhupada, when he was coming across the ocean on the Jaladuta, Krishna appeared to massage his shoulders and give him comfort while he had a heart attack. 2 heart attacks. You know, even for Prabhupada, as recent as Srila Prabhupada. You know, all these personalities had the Lord appear to them in a dream, or like they saw them somewhere. You know? So it shows that their connection to the Lord is so strong that they have these pastimes. You don't read about that for anyone, just anyone, you know. But for every single one of them, you can name at least one time that the Lord appeared to them and gave them instruction. Any other points that stuck out to anyone? Any questions? Any added points?
What age Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started to connect with the Krishna consciousness movement?
Sorry, say again?
What age Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started to get the understanding of Krishna moment and connected to Krishna?
Like how old he was?
Yes, 16.
16, yeah. He was around 16. He had studied before, like he had some prior knowledge, but like...
Yeah, he was already the Pandit by, I think 11, he was already teaching
Yeah.
all of Navadvip. But then at 16, he started Sankirtan movement, and then for 8 years that continued in Navadvip, and then he took sannyas at 24.
But yeah. It's more, and for most of the Goswamis as well, their education at the beginning of life was already based in Krishna consciousness in some way, but not fully. It was to a certain percentage. But Lord Chaitanya obviously took it to a whole different level for them. But most of them already had that knowledge prior to that.
Yeah, all of them were born in Brahminical families.
Yeah.
All the Goswamis, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So by default, they went to Gurukul and read the Vedas and the Shastras and everything, Sanskrit. That was the setting 500, 600 years back.
Any other points or questions? Anything that stuck out to anybody?
Okay, she understood something.
Alright. So we'll move on to the last part of our program. Let me just get this out of the way. and we'll be singing this nice, wonderful bhajan, which is by the next acharya in the line after. Sorry, one second. After Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami comes Narottam Das Thakur, who wrote many wonderful bhajans. And so today we'll be singing Gauranga Bolite Have. I think it's a pretty popular bhajan. And so we'll just go through the translation, and there's a very nice purport by Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. Right. Who wants to read the translation? Srila?
When will that opportune moment come to me when there will be shivering of the body as soon as I chant Lord Gauranga's name? And after the shivering, while chanting Hare Krishna, when will there be tears pouring down from my eyes? When will that day come when Lord Nityananda's causeless mercy is bestowed upon me so that my desire for material enjoyment becomes very insignificant?
When my mind is completely purified, being freed from material anxieties and desires, then I shall be able to understand Vrindavana and the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, and then my spiritual life will be successful. When shall I be very much eager to study the books left by the 6 Goswamis? One has to learn of the conjugal loving affairs of Radha Krishna through the teachings of these 6 Goswamis. Narottama Das always wishes to understand this conjugal love under the direction of the 6 Goswamis.
Would anyone like to tackle purport? Anything?
You just go.
Yeah?
Like, want to be?
You want to read? You don't have to do the whole thing, just like one sentence. One or
Okay,
two
just
sentences.
one
Yeah,
sentence.
1 or 2 sentences, yeah.
Okay, this song was sung by Narottama Das Thakur, a great devotee and acharya in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, the discipline succession coming down from Lord Chaitanya. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Do one more
Okay,
sentence.
okay. Narottama Das Thakur has written many songs which was recognized as authoritative by all Vaishnavas. He has sung, he has sung these songs in simple Bengali language, but the purport, the deep meaning of this song is very significant. In this song he says, Gauranga, Bolite, Have, Pulaka, Sarira.
Yeah?
Okay.
You can pick up from here.
Sure.
One has attained.
Yeah, one has attained the perfection of chanting when as soon as he chants the name of Lord Gauranga, who initiated his some Kirtana movement at once. There is shivering in his body. This is not to be imitated, but Narottama Das Thakura is asking, when will that opportune moment come to us when there will be shivering of the body as soon as we chant Lord Gauranga's name? And after the shivering, Hari Hari Bolite Narayane to be
Babe Nira.
Sorry, I'm not very much text.
You're fine.
Could you please press
Actually,
command plus?
Zoom.
Yeah, click, click,
yeah.
click.
Maybe Zoom a bit.
But then it gets cut off.
Yeah, it gets cut off.
And then do more command plus, like a bunch, and then it'll like
I can see it.
4 times.
Yeah,
Alright. Gaurav, you want to read?
I don't know where we are.
while chanting Hare
Well,
Krishna,
okay.
there will be tears in the eyes.
While chanting Hare Krishna, there will be tears in my eyes. Then he says, Ar kavi nitai chander karuna hoibe. We are all asking about the mercy of Lord Nityananda. Nityananda is supposed to be the original spiritual master, so we have to approach Gauranga, Lord Chaitanya, through the mercy of Lord Nityananda. What is the symptom of a person who has achieved the causeless mercy of Lord Nityananda? Narottama Das Thakur says that the symptom of one who has actually received the causeless mercy of Lord Nityananda is that he has no more material desire. Ar kavi nitai chande karuna hoibe samsara vasana mora kavi tuchya have. Samsara vasana means desire for material enjoyment.
Go ahead.
And of end of enjoyment, but only to keep body and soul.
Push.
You want to get closer?
Where are you? Right there.
Oh, I skipped a line. Start from Samsara vasana means.
Okay. Push start from there.
Samsara vasana means desire for material enjoyment.
Website we
And Narottam Das Thakur wonders when it will become very insignificant. Of course, as long as we have bodies, we have to accept so many material things, but not in the spirit of enjoyment, but only to keep the body and the soul together.
Narottam Das says further, Rupa Raghunathan Pade Obe Akuti. When shall I be very much eager to study the books left by the six Goswamis? Akuti means eagerness because Rupa Goswami is the father of devotional service. He has written a book called Bhakti Ras Marita Sindhu. Ras Marita Sindhu, in which there are nice directions on devotional services. These topics are also dealt with in Chaitanya Charitamrita and other books. And we have given the summary of those directions in our books, Teaching of Lord Chaitanya.
One has to learn of the conjugal loving affairs of Radha Krishna through the teachings of these six Goswamis. Narottam Das Thakur directs us not to try to understand the conjugal love of Radha Krishna by our own endeavor. We should try to understand this Yugala Priti, conjugal love, under the direction of the Goswamis. As long as the mind is too much absorbed in materialistic thought, one cannot enter into the kingdom of Vrindavan. But Narottam Das Thakur says, Vishaya Charya Kabe Suda, Habe Mana Kabe Hama Herabo Shri Vrindavana. When the mind is completely purified, being freed from material anxieties and desires, then I shall be able to understand Vrindavana and the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, and then my spiritual life will be successful.
Thank you. So we shall sing the song and end up with it.
She's like, I'm doing
She
it.
already knows how to use like a tablet. She's going for it.
I will scroll.
I will scroll.
Everything is a touch screen for these children.
Yeah.
Dude, it's nice. The little kids, you know how they play tag? They call it COVID. No, for real. They're like, we have COVID.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Following
Wow.
their elder, you should be correcting them.
Huh?
You should be correcting them.
No, it's not fun. We play toilet tag.
We play COVID tag.
Have you heard of toilet tag? When you get tagged, you become a flush, and then someone on your team has to come and flush you, and then you go you're back alive. And then chaos tag is when everyone is it. So you all get to tag each other, and whoever tags everyone, because when you get tagged, you go down until the guy who tags you goes down.
That's crazy.
Hi. Hi. Come here.
That face is just like, ugh.
I know, it's hilarious. It's like, I am questioning you more. I don't know.
Krishna
wonderful program. Very nice.
I know.
Makes them feel. So I know
So these
she's
people don't understand me because of this.
What is happening? Why is it not
I
stopping?
know that. I know. Because I need to. Whoa. Yeah.
You're not eating anything? There's salad.
Water. What? Just because. I needed to cleanse. It's grand. I'm gonna eat something for lunch today though. Not, I'm gonna go home and break fast right now with miso.
Oh, thank you.
It's gonna be great. I love you guys. This has been amazing.
We're gonna come up with a different name.
Yeah, we are.
I didn't know that there was another one.
I only know that because I'm on their.
We can be we can be the ABCs, Atlanta Bhakta Commune. Atlanta Bhaktas Commune.
Commune? No, you can commune with a K.
Stop. How do I stop?
Maybe call that a startup idea. To make something called commune. KOHMUNE. Commune, because that was the only domain name available. Basically, it's like a.
I love you guys. Very cool. Nice to meet you. Awesome. You still okay to take them back?
Yeah, I'll take them.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Awesome. You rock. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know how to stop this.
Yes, you will. Party bowl. Thanks for the food.